English Teacher, Part 114. This process, which helps bring order into life, requires the following 3 steps: examining data, creating categories, classifying items by categories. Encouraging students to create their own categories allows them to maximize the learning potential of this operation. Classifying, like comparing, involves the discovery of similarities and differences. Students should discover that although they may classify items in a number of different ways, each category must be internally consistent. Normally, they should classify items on the basis of one factor, for example, color, use, cost at a time. Imagining requires letting the mind exercise its powers freely and creatively, unrestricted by time, place, or known facts. Imagining should release the thinker from rules, regulations, restrictive data, promote divergent thinking. This rich inner resource leads to the creativity and invention and brings humor, joy, spontaneity, and beauty into life. It can provide a sense of accomplishment and enlarge self-concept. Hypothesizing. Encourage students to frame a variety of possible explanations to resolve a question, problem, or a situation. After identifying various possibilities, students determine which are the most credible ones. High school students may be asked to find the ways of testing their hypothesis, which makes the process more complex. Steps might be as follows: present the problem, ask students to hypothesize solutions, have students anticipate outcomes, have students select most appropriate and hypothetical solutions. Hypothesizing reduces dogmatic assertions, black or white judgments that reflect a single perspective on life. It is a creative process that gives students a means of dealing constructively with problems in school and beyond. Criticizing encourages students to offer opinions, make judgments, and evaluate, thereby practicing discrimination. Train your students to specify the criteria, standards, identify evidence they use in making judgments. Criticizing encourages students to offer opinions, make judgments, and evaluation, thereby practicing discrimination. Train your students to specify criteria. Identifying assumptions requires recognizing an instance of taking something for granted. To draw a conclusion or make a decision on grounds that are possible or probable rather than established is to make an assumption. Learning to discriminate between what is assumed to be true and what is observable fact stands at the heart of the logical reasoning. As students become skilled at scrutinizing and identifying assumptions, they become less susceptible to propaganda and seductive advertising, less willing to accept experimental data as proof and conclusion based on the probability as right, less likely to leap to the conclusions based on the limited data, and gradually less impulsive in their actions. Coding is a sort of shorthand system for pointing out thought patterns of expression in writing and of speech of others. The code X, for example, can be used to identify extreme words and phrases. For example, always, everybody, worst, the only. And Q might signify the qualifying expressions, like V might designate value statements. As students use coding, analyze the worlds of others, they become more aware of their own states when learning put their minds in gear before they put their tongues to work. Summarizing requires condensing data to frame a concise but coherent, reasonably comprehensive statement that expresses the core message or main ideas of a work. To prepare such a statement, one must learn to distinguish relevant and consequential content from irrelevant and trivial content.